When my wife Susan and I first got married, we were lucky enough to spend part of our honeymoon in Paris. Now, we have a friend who's particularly into history, and he told us that one of the things you absolutely have to do in Paris is go and visit the gardens at the Palace of Versailles. He made it sound like it was the thing to do in Paris, which may or may not be true. But the pictures online, they certainly look nice enough. And I enjoy history as much as the next person. But in all reality, neither Susan or I were really that keen. Still, our friend was persuasive. And so we bought tickets anyway and thought, oh, well, why not? And so there we are in Paris, Versailles tickets in hand, plans locked in. But on the morning, we made two crucial underestimations. The first was how long we'd want to spend at the breakfast buffet that morning. Now, full disclosure, that was more me than Susan, but tomato, tomato. The second underestimation we made, though, was how long it would take to walk to the bus station. You might be able to see where this is going. We eventually make it to the bus station with our tickets, only to find our bus heading for Versailles, pulling away without us on it. And so we're at a bit of a loose end and we're kind of meandering our way back through Paris, making our way towards the hotel. I start to imagine what a second round at the buffet might look like. But then Susan spots a sign pointing us towards Disneyland Paris. Now, our friend still thinks we made a massive error in judgment by spending a day of our honeymoon in Paris at Disneyland rather than at Versailles. But we have no regrets. We had a great time. It was spontaneous, it was fun, and none of it would have happened if our plans for Versailles hadn't fallen through. In life, for many of us, our lives revolve around the plans we make, or even just making plans generally. Dinner plans, travel plans, social plans, career plans, family plans, money plans, plans everywhere. We often think we know what we should be doing, but oftentimes something interrupts our plans. A closed door, something unforeseen, a detour, a strange nudge in a different direction. Our reading this morning tells the story of a disciple whose plans get interrupted, and he ends up somewhere he never planned to be, and yet it turns out to be exactly the right place at exactly the right time. And I think that this invites us to reflect this morning on something we often talk about in church: mission. I wonder what comes to mind for you when you think of the word mission. It might be a big church event, or maybe an overseas trip somewhere, a plan, a program, something strategic or bold in a neighborhood maybe. But the question I want to pose this morning is, what if mission isn't always about the things that we do for God? What if mission is about what God is already doing in the world around us, and how we might be open enough to notice that and to join in with those things? So let's pick up the story from Acts chapter 8. It's a story that picks up just after the events of Pentecost. The early church is growing and the Spirit is moving in all kinds of surprising ways. Philip, one of the disciples, is in Samaria, where there's sort of this kind of mini revival breaking out. Crowds are gathering, people are being healed, there's energy, there's momentum, there's probably what we would call success. And if you were drawing up a strategy for how to grow the early church, this would seem like the logical place to stay. Stick with the buzz, grow something, build the movement. But then the Spirit steps in. We're told an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go south to the road, the desert road that goes from Jerusalem to Gaza." No explanation, no end goal, just go. Now, if that were me, I might have some follow-up questions like, why? And what for? And what happens when I get there? But Philip doesn't seem to ask. He just goes. And along the desert road, he meets someone, an Ethiopian official, a man of influence and of learning, riding in a chariot, reading the scroll of Isaiah aloud. Once again, the Spirit nudges. Go over to the chariot and stay near it. That's it. No big plan, no clever strategy. Just walk beside the chariot, Philip. And so Philip does. He walks beside the chariot and he hears the man reading. And so he asks a question: "Do you understand what you're reading?" The man replies, "Well, how can I unless someone explains it to me?" Philip is then invited up into the chariot, and as they ride together, he shares the story of Jesus. The man receives the message, and when they come across some water, he says, "Well, what's to stop me from being baptized?" And just like that, a new beginning takes place right there on the dusty desert road. But here's the thing. Absolutely none of this was Philip's plan. The whole story is led and sustained. It's initiated by the Spirit. It's the Spirit who sends Philip. It's the Spirit who nudges him to the chariot. It's the Spirit who prepares the heart of the Ethiopian official. Philip's role is to be interruptible, to be attentive, to be available, to be willing to walk alongside someone and be part of what God is already doing. And I think this story shows us something really important about what mission is and about what mission isn't. Because when we hear the word mission, I imagine for most of us, we tend to think of it being something that we have to plan and initiate. An event, a cause, a church program. And while those things aren't bad in and of themselves, this passage invites us to think of mission through a slightly different lens. Some Latin for you. Missio Dei. Missio Dei. Missio Dei is the theological phrase that simply means the mission of God. It's the idea that God is the one who initiates mission, that ultimately the mission is God's, not ours. It's the idea that God is always at work, creating, healing, restoring, speaking, that the Spirit is already stirring in people's lives, already present in our communities and neighborhoods, already drawing people towards wholeness. And our task, our invitation is to pay attention to that, to be willing to be interrupted, to be available and to join in. Missio Dei reminds us that mission isn't just about what we do for God. It's about what God is already doing and what we get to participate in. Philip didn't bring God into the desert. God was already there. Philip didn't create a strategic mission plan. He listened. He trusted the Spirit's nudge. He walked beside someone and something good unfolded. That's the heart of Missio Dei, the mission of God. God is the initiator. God is the one already at work in the world, healing, restoring, connecting, calling. Our role is not to invent the mission, but to join in, to listen, to respond, to be present in the places we find ourselves in. God is already present. Mission begins when we notice and follow. So I wonder about you, where you live, where you work, where you spend your days. God is already there, already at work, already stirring hope, already healing wounds, mending what is broken, inviting connection where there is loneliness. Mission doesn't begin with us, it begins with God. And the good news is, you don't have to have a master plan for this. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't even need to be particularly confident. You just need to be available, available to listen, available to notice, available to be interrupted like Philip was. That's how it started for Philip. A whisper from the Spirit, a willingness to walk the desert road, a simple conversation shared in the back of a chariot. So let me offer you a few questions for you to ponder and chew over. Where might God already be at work in your street, in your workplace, the places that you frequent regularly? How might you cultivate a posture of being interruptible like Philip? Are there desert roads you're being nudged towards, even if they seem small or slow or strange? Mission isn't a program, mission is a posture. And the great thing about it being a posture is that means it's not about performance, it's about orientation, a way of being, a way of noticing. God is already present, God is already moving, God is already inviting. The question is, will we notice and will we follow? Amen.